Hello everyone, welcome to our new project Tic Tac game using React.js hooks. So I hope we are all familiar with the Tic Tac game rules and regulations. So I will not waste any time explaining the rules of this game. So let's get to our next slide, and here we will know how to get started with our project. So to get started with our project, we have to first initialize a React.js project, as we all know. So to get started with our React.js project, we have to make sure that npm is already installed in our system, that is a node package manager. And the prerequisite of our project is we should be very familiar with HTML, CSS and JavaScript as well. Coming to our next slide, we will know what topics we will explore. So the main topics we will know about this project is we will be using the very basic and main two hooks of React.js, that is useState and useEffect. So we will learn in depth about useState hooks and useEffect hooks later in this project while coding. And let's get back to our new slide, that is React components. And what is React components actually, and how to arrange React components and how to manage the component tree. We will learn about all those things in this project, along with how to playing with props and passing function from one component to another. It will be very useful for us to debug any error in future. Now coming to the final result of our project, this will be the final screen of our project, that is on the left side of our slide. You can see we have the front screen of our game, and in the right hand side we have the winning screen of our game, and this is how it will look. Now we will learn more about this project while creating it, and this is all about React.js project Tic Tac using hooks. Thank you. Welcome to the next lesson of React.js project Tic Tac Toe. So here we will learn how to set up our project, and to set up our project you have to make sure that npm is installed in your system. So to check npm is installed or not, we have to open our command prompt in a directory. So I have created a folder named React.js project, as you can see here, and I have to check. I have to firstly open the command prompt. In the command prompt we have to write npm, that is a node package manager -v, which will is a command for checking the node package manager version. So I will press enter and it will give me the actual version of node package manager installed in my computer. So as we can see, it is 6.14.13 npm is installed already in my system. If you don't know how to install npm, please check a tutorial and you can good to go with that. Okay, now to get started with our React project, we have to initialize our project, and the command for initialize a React project is simple. To write create, first of all we have to write npx, then space, then create hyphen react hyphen app, and this is the command for initializing the React project. And we also have to give the name of our project. So I will give the name tic hyphen tac hyphen toe, as we are going to make tic tac toe game. I will press enter over here, and it will start initializing our project in the backend. Already been started, and it will take like 1 to 2 minutes to initialize properly our project. And after it has been completed, we can see a folder named tic tac toe over here, which will within which the React project will already be initialized. So I will get back to you after completing of this installation. As we have installed our project already, so we will know how to start the server. To start the server, first we have to go inside our project. So I have to cd, that is change directory, into our tic tac toe folder, and here I will start the server by writing the command npm start, and this will start the React.js server locally in localhost 3000 is the basic port, that is the default port which React server mainly starts. So after starting the server, we will have this screen, and it will automatically open the development server over here in our default browser, as I have said. And this is the default screen of our React server, and here we have an instruction like edit src/app.js to make changes in this site. Now we will head towards our next lesson and learn how to make changes for our project and make the user interface for our game. So to get started with this lecture, we have to mainly know the folder structure of React.js. So the folder structure mainly comprised of two folders, public and src. Public mainly includes all the assets of our projects, and src includes all the app.js and index css, all the html files and css files. So to get started with our project, we have to firstly delete all the things inside the app.js, and let's render something called hello world so that we can give it a test run that our file is working properly or not. So I will remove this logo and I will check the browser. Also I will render this hello world within a h1 tag so that I can give it a larger view, and I will place that hello world within a h1 tag, and I will open my browser and see if it is working properly or not. Okay, so it is very fine. Now how do we render a component inside this? So to making a component, we will first make a folder named component inside src. So let's make a component folder inside src, and also within the component folder we will make our component file, that is a square.js, which is our main square file. And this square.js is each square within the game board. And to get started with this, we have to give the basic React syntax. So to make the basic React syntax, I have a shortcut here, RAFC, which will make the basic React syntax for me. I will write the same thing, hello world, over here within a h1 tag. Let's say hello one again within an h1 tag, and I have to make a connection between app.js and square.js. How? So to make the connection between app.js, I have to import that component inside this folder or this file. By doing this, by making the component import, we have to first give the name of the component we want to import, and we can give the path from which it will be imported, and how to use that component. To use that component, we have to place it over here instead of hello world, and we will give it inside a tag and self close the tag. Now we will be seeing the same thing. There will be no change in the output, as we are still printing the hello world inside the square component. Now we will learn how to print each square inside this component. For the game board, we have to manage to place 9 squares. So we can do this by like placing these 3 in a row. So we have 3 hello world. Then also we have to make it like 3 rows of boxes, which includes each rows includes 3 columns also. By this way we can achieve a game board result. So I will provide the square css and all the game board and the proper ui css in the lecture notes, and I will teach you how to make all the components firstly. So let's head over to the next lesson and learn how to place our components and functional structure within square.js. Welcome to the new lecture, and as you can see I have already given my CSS, and I will provide the CSS to the lecture notes, and you can get from there and copy and paste it. So I will one by one create my classes. For the first, I will create the square. So for the square, I have already made a square CSS, and I will just copy and paste this class as a class name inside our square div. So I will write the class name and I will give is a square. So what we will do, that this square will be a proper shape of as we wanted. Now we will no need of this hello world anymore. It is just a square now. Now what we'll do is pass two props. So what these two are mainly is, the value will indicate what will we place inside this component, that is inside the square, and inside the square there will be only two things, either a x or a o. So these are the only two things that this val can contain. So I will place that val inside this, and there is some function we should trigger on clicking on each box. That is, the box will be initially blank, so that this value will be initially nothing. But on clicking each square, there will be a X or a O depending on the turns of the players. So this is the choose square function I will pass from the main component, which will act as what function should we call or how the function should we work on clicking on each square. So I will pass this properties as a function on click of these props. So on click I will pass that choose square. By this way we can pass properties or parameters within a function. Now let's get back to our app.js component. Here we are already rendering square one time, but we need to render it properly so that it will be visible as a box. So I have to create one more div inside this, which will act as the game board. So you can see I have already one CSS name as board, and I will apply that as a game board. I will give it a class name as board so that I can put our square inside the game board and we can render it properly as we wanted in our tutorial. So I will format the document and I will arrange the components properly, and let's have a look what we can see. So I can see only one square as I have given only one. So firstly I have to make one row. Now if I paste three squares in a row, what I will see is that I can show you, like while saving it, here I can see only three squares, one upon another, but we need column wise also. So how can we achieve that result? To achieve that result we have to place it inside a row. So I have to make another div which will act as a row, and each row will contain three square. I have also one div with a row and it has a flex of 33%, that is we need three boxes, so it will contain 33% of the whole width. So I will give it a class name and it will act as a row. I will paste three squares inside it and I will paste three rows individually. So how it will work? Let me copy this row and paste, and copy again and paste another. So this will give us the result of a proper box, as you can see here. Now we are missing something and we have some issue also. What is the issue? We are missing firstly the heading, the tic tac toe, and the issue with our boxes are they are quietly rectangular, as because the heading is not available here. So we will give some heading, like here I will give one h1 tag which will contain let's play, and I will break the line with a br, which is a self-closing tag, and I will say tic tac and toe. This will contain the heading. Now the heading also have some CSS. The CSS names as title. I will place the title class inside the heading. I will place that class name and I will give title. So I hope we will be rendering this now. This is placing beside our box. We should be placed upon the box. So what should we do for it? We have to place inside the board. Now on placing inside the board, we can see our achieved result is fine, and we can place the icons as a emoji or anything. I will be showing it later. Now we cannot see anything on clicking on each boxes, as we haven't announce that functions. So let me try one thing, that my function are working or not. So to check the functions are working, we have to pass these values and choose square from the component. And how can I pass those things? So in this component we are getting the two values, one name as val and choose square. Now we need to pass this. How can I pass this? To pass these values, we have to write here like this, as choose square equals to some function. Let's say choose square will act as a function named handle click. So this will handle our click. Now handle click we have to define here as what handle click will actually do. So I will define a constant with handle click, and handle click will be a fat arrow function, and I should know that you must be familiar with fat arrow function. This is nothing but a short syntax of a normal function. So what I will do, just console log, or I will do one alert. I will do one alert of like I have been clicked. So I will do an alert, I have been clicked. This will notify us that I have been clicked, that is we have clicked one of the squares. Now I have to pass that value also. Also we should pass the same row twice again. So I will delete all the previous rows and I will pass this 2 times. And obviously we should have the number change, that is a values. If I click any of the objects, any of the squares, we will get one alert box. Now we should tackle this way, that if I click on the 0, I should get only that box identity number only, so that we will be tackled to render only O or X to that box only. Next lesson we will learn how to render O and X within a specific component. Welcome to the next lecture. So as we have already gone through this function, that is handle click, which will be triggered once we click on any of the boxes. Now we should return something like, if we click on the 0, we should have printed 0 in the alert box, so that we can trigger each box's index number, and we can put a X or O according to that. What I will do is that I will pass one number with the function, and that number should be the index number of this square. And the index number I meant to say is that 0, 1, 2 and all those things. Now to pass a parameter through this function, what we'll have to do, we can just simply place a first bracket here and we can pass the index number, that is 0. The problem with this syntax is that the function will be called before we handle the click, or before we place a click on that box. So we should put it in a way like a fat arrow function, that is it should be called one and only when the box is being clicked or pressed. So if I pass this handle click with the index number 0, I have to receive that over here. So I will receive within a form like square, and this square will hold the index number 0, and we can print that square also over here. If I say just alert me the square that I will be sending. So here we can see the 0 is being alerted to us, and for that we can now get the index number of our square, that is the first square is 0. So we have to pass the same thing over to the all squares, so that we can get all the index numbers. Now as you can see, I have passed all the handle click with the proper index number 0, 1, 2, 3 and everything through the function. Now we can give it a test run. When I click on 0, it will give me the index number alert with 0. I will give on 1, it will give me the 1, on 2 the same, for everything. Now let's go to our next step, that is we have to handle the state of the boxes using a hook named useState. So what useState will does is that when we click on this particular box, it will note the state that is 0. So on the 0 index number we will put an X or O, and that will be the player turns. To handle a use state, we have to be familiar with the use state hooks in React. So to use the use state, we have to import the use state like this within a parenthesis so that it can be usable. And I have initialized two use state here, one name board, that is the game board, and second one is the player. So our game board will handle the array and the state. So I will tell you what is game board actually. Game board consisting of the whole board index numbers as an array. For example, this is the first number 0 and this is the second number 1, and like that we have up to 9 boxes of array. So these boxes or these places will hold each one either a cross or a O. So by this way we can update this array within the player turns. So what will be the player turns? The player will handle will either a X or a O. So I have given a O like this. It is an emoji. You can copy this emoji from emojipedia.com and you can get several types of emoji over there. It is up to you which one we will choose. So using this player and set player constant, we will just update the player's state, that is the player's turn. Either it will, if the player turn is now X, the second player will be O, and if the second player is now O, and then the third player will be X. So by this way we can just make the turns of the players, and that turns will be saved in the board array, and we can place that value towards our game board. For example, for like say the first player have placed X over on the 0th position and the second player have placed O on the second position. Let's say again the first player have placed its cross from the 4th position. So what this means is that we have to get the values from this array and put it in our game board so that on clicking we can get our result instantly. So how to do that? As we have initialized our array, we have to first initialize it with a blank, as if the boxes will not hold anything initially. So for now the array is totally blank. Now on clicking, the handle click function will handle a function which will update the boxes with a proper value, and the value will be fetched from that array. I have written one function, that is I will just remove the set alert, and here is the set board function. What this function will do is that you can get the set board from the use state, and this set board is mainly a function which updates the array within it. So the set board will firstly map through the board. So what is map? Map is basically looping through an array. So our board is an array and map is looping through it. So while looping through it, our map will get two parameters. What are the parameters? So our map is itself a function, and it itself comprises one another function which is holding two parameters, value and index. So what is the value? The value is basically what inside an array element, and index is the index number, that is the first index will be 0, 1, 2 and then up to 8, as we have only 9 elements, and value will be blank as we have nothing initially inside the array. So now we have to check that on which box user have been clicked. So the user will click on the box that will be fetched through this square. This is the index number of the box. So we will map through this array and we will check on which number, on which box number the user have clicked, and if the number is equals to the index number of the array, then we will return the player. Also we have another condition, and value must be blank. That is, suppose if the player once click on number 1 box, so that we can put one X or O regarding to the player turns on that box. But what happen if we click on that box again? So it must change to again O, but that is not the rule of tic-tac-toe. So we have to put a condition, that is, if the value is equals to 0 or null, then only we can put a X or O into that box, and then we will return a player. What is the player? As I have already told, player is mainly the state or the turn of the player, that is, it is a X or O. So we will be starting with a O, and the first player will be a O. Now if the index doesn't match it, it will simply return all the values, that will blank. Now if I save it and go through this, we have to make one another change. What is the change is that the value is still 0. The value must be something inside the board. Now currently we are passing the value is a static number 0, 1, 2. Now the value must be blank first of all initially, and if we put it like this, then the value will never be updated because we are not passing anything to the value. It is simply blank. So we have to pass the blank array with the proper index number within the value. So I can write the value as like the board array, and the board array with index number 0, and that value of the board array, that is already it is blank, and that value will be passed through this value, and it will be fetched in our square.js, and it will be printed in the value parameter. So by this we can pass. Now as we have make all the changes and properly handle the click, as if now we can test our application in the browser. So when I click on the first box, it will give me an O. On the second box, it will give me an O. You must note that on clicking each box, it will pass this index number, and it will check, our code will check that if this index number is equals to the array's index number, and it will place one O on that place of that array. So by this way we can fetch all the data of this O. Now let's head over to the next lesson, and where we will learn about how to turn this player, like on first click it will be an O, and then next click it will be an X. It is very easy to use that. We will use a new hook of React.js in the next lesson, that is use effect hook, which will be effectful for this to make a change in O and X. Welcome to the next lecture. So here we will learn how to toggle between our players, that is the X and O. So lastly we have seen that we will be only placing the O inside the game board. So now we will learn how to place the X and then O alternatively. So to do that we have to find a way to toggle between those two letters or those X or O. Okay, so while handling the click, we are good to go with this section. So I will not do anything inside the handle click. Now it's time to introduce the new hook of React.js, that is use effect hook. Okay, so what use effect hook does is actually it re-renders, or it just refresh the page every time when a condition is set towards its ending of the function. So what this basically means is that, for example, suppose I remove something like I remove this function from here, and you will learn what I am doing. So this is basic use effect syntax. What it does is that we can console log anything inside use effect, and the console log will only be triggered one and only when this array or this board gets changes. So we already know what is board. Board is basically the array we are using in the use state hook. This is our blank array. So when we place anything or when we click anything on the box will be filled up with an O, and that O will trigger the board array. The board array will face any change, and that change will also trigger this use effect function, and anything between this use effect function will also get triggered. So what we will place inside this use effect function is that I have made a condition: if player is equals to X, then we will toggle the player as O, and else if the player is O, it will be X. It's as simple as that. So the player, in my previous lecture I have discussed, it is the initial state of the player is O. You can set it as X if you want. So if the player is X, then it will be toggled to O. As it set player will toggle this use state, the character inside this function will be set to X, and else if the player is already O, it will be toggled to X. It is as simple as that. Let's give it a try in our browser. We'll save it, and I hope it's been rendered, refreshed. So first initial will be O. Okay, so we have to refresh once. Okay, it have been refreshed, and then firstly it will be a cross, then a O, then again a cross, then again O, then cross, then O, cross, O, and cross. So you can see we have completed the box. Now if we click on again any boxes, it will not change, as because we have already handled that thing inside our handle click. That is like the and value equals to null. So the if there is the value is filled inside array, it will not trigger this function. It will only trigger if the value is nothing inside the box. Now we are familiar with this interface. Now how will we decide the winners? The winners, as we know, will be decided across or up and down or diagonally of the same characters. Now we have to make a function for the winners. So let's get towards it. So to check the winners, we have to first set that functionality inside our code so that we can go through one by one. That is, the logic will be a pattern. And what is the pattern? The pattern, as is the basic rules of game, that is any one character, either cross or either O, will be diagonally matching, across the line matching, or will be vertically matching. So we have to set the number of index. We have to give it an array and inside it, and we can arrange it by that way. Now I will show you how to do that. Firstly, let's make a new file and name it pattern.js. Now why I will making this? Because I will set the whole pattern array inside this file, and I will call this file as a component, not as a component basically. I will call this file include in the main file, and I will set logic for that. So I will just initialize pattern.js, and inside pattern.js what I will do, simply give an array. Now what does this array means? A constant name patterns holding a full array consisting of sub arrays. Now these arrays are nothing but basically the index numbers of the boxes. That is, while it is suppose now let's suppose the x is in 0th position, the another x is in 1 position, and the another x is in 2nd position. Now it's a match, it's a winning pattern. Now we will trigger the function when this pattern matches our game board. Also 3, 4 and 5, this is also a winning pattern, and as same as that, all I have announced here are the winning patterns. So if any of these patterns matches to our code logic, the player X or O will win. Okay, then I will save this file and I will simply call this file inside our app.js. To import this file, I will simply write import, and then inside second bracket I will write patterns, and I have to import it from my patterns.js. So from I have to give one slash and patterns.js. By this way I can include the file. After including our patterns, we have to set our logic to check a winning pattern is there or not. So I will make a function over here to check for the winning patterns. After the user click, then we will start immediately checking if this is a winning pattern or not. So let me introduce the function for the winning pattern. I will create a constant named check win, and inside the constant I will be a fat arrow function. Now here the logic starts. We have included our patterns in the top of our file, and I will loop through that pattern using a for each loop, as you are familiar with that. Now using this for each loop, I will get each pattern as current pattern, and this current pattern will hold each pattern like I am talking about this one as first pattern, this one as second pattern, and this one as third, and along with that. Now const first player equals to board current player 0. What this lines means actually. Now I am creating a constant which name is first player. Now first player will hold the first player that is either X or O, either cross or O it will be. Now what this first player will do is that it will hold the value of the board array where the index number is current patterns 0. What this means is that if we consider the board array and inside the board array which index numbers value it will hold current pattern with 0. So if I go with the current pattern is this one, and this pattern 0 value is this one, the 0. So it's basically mean that we will catch the value of the first box inside our game board. By this way we will loop through inside our patterns and we will get first player every time. Now we will set our logic, that is if the first player is equals to blank. What does this mean is that if the first player is nothing, for suppose we haven't put anything inside our pattern or we haven't clicked any boxes, then it will simply return this function. It will not check for the win. Now we will create one variable again, and which is the winning pattern. Now initially it will be true. Now I will again loop through our current pattern. Now what current pattern, as I have told you, current pattern will hold the for suppose the first one, that is 0 1 2. Now it will loop through that array with an index number, and this index number will hold once 0 the first time, 1 the second time, and 2 the third time. So it will loop through 3 times, as because the array is including 3 elements only. Now here the logic goes again. Now if our board array with that index number, that is 0, and is not equals to our first player, that is the first and second player is not equal, then we will just announce this winning pattern variable as false, that we haven't got any winner till yet. Then while this function will be false, or while this statement will be false, that means we have an winning player now. Now lastly what we will check is that if winning pattern is true, that means we have gotten winner, then what should we do then? Then we will set our result, and what this result is coming from, I will announce one another use state over here, so that we can set our result variable and we can trigger that result according to our result page also. So now I have announced my new variable, new constant, that is result and set result. Now what this line will do is that it will initially hold an object with key winner, and the winner will be none, as because initially we have no winner, and the state, that is the game has won or draw, it will hold the state as none, as because no winner yet, no draw matches, no winning matches yet. Now let's get to our function check winners. Now where we will set our result and we will set this key winner to the player name, that is either X or O. So we'll just, where this player is coming from, it is coming from this constant with player. Now we'll just simply pass either it's a O or cross inside this function and we'll just get that value from there, and the state will be on. Now we can manage this state according to our functions. For example, if we create one function that will be creating obviously to check if the match is draw or not, then we can set this on as a draw. So as we have completed our check win function, now we cannot just check now to our browser, as because it will not work properly. Why not properly? Because we haven't written any statement, we haven't seen anything returning from this function, so that we will be aware that the player has already won or not. So to check that, we have to call this function inside any boxes or any kind of thing like that. When we press one of the boxes, it will trigger this function and it will check for the winning statement. So how can we do that? We just have to copy, or we just have to call this function within a use effect again, and where I will just call this function within this use effect. And what this will do is that simply when we click or when there is a change in the board array, it will simply first check for if there is a win or not, and then it will call this function. If it is a X, then we will just toggle the player. Now as we have said the check win inside our use effect, we also have to place some use effect for our result, as because when a player will own, how will you get to know which player have won, or how will you show the result in our browser? So to get clarification of that result of a player, we have to trigger the use effect named result. Now here I have my new use effect, and what this use effect will do is as same as the previous one, but it will trigger only when there is a change in the result array. And when we will got a winner, it will just check if the result with a state is not equals to none or not. So if this result is none, then there will obviously no winner, but this function will do a recheck if there is none or not. So if it is not none and it is other than none, then we will alert a box that is game finished and the winning player is result.winner. Now I know that you should be familiar with this back arrow tick function, and within this tick we can just announce a variable within a dollar and the second bracket. And what is this result.winner? This result.winner is nothing but coming from our use state, the result and the winner, that will be our player name. So without any wasting any time, just let's test it in our browser. Now let's play the game for once and we will find if our function or application is working properly or not. I will make the X win for once. Okay, so we are getting our alert that is game finished and winning player is X. Wow, it's working fine then. So, okay, so it is working properly. Now we have to make a restart button. Also, the restart button should only appear if and only if anyone own the game or the matches is draw. So draw part will come later on. For now, let's focus on if anyone own the game, there will be a return or there will be a restart button of the game. So to make a restart button of the game, we have make a use state hooks again, which will be initially a false, and it has one variable named win and setWin function. So how I will trigger this function is that when we will be result, when there will be a change in the result array, this function will get triggered and it will set win to true. Now I will simply set here the setWin to true. By this way we can trigger the true function. Now I will check if the win is true, then I will render the return button. So I will render the restart button below here, let's say here. Now within these brackets I will say win and question mark. This is the syntax for if else in React.js. I hope you all know it. and if you are not aware of this, you can go through the React.js docs. Now if the player is wind, or if there is any player with wind, we can show the player, or we can just show the button. Here we can render a button. So to render a button, I will just say a button like this, with having restart, just restart only, and if there is nothing, then null. That is the else part of the if else, if there is a win player, just render the button, else render nothing. Okay, let's give it a test run also. Okay, so our button is already showing, it should not be. Let's check what mistake we have done. Okay. Okay, so the set win true must be inside the if statement, as if there is not any winner, why should I show my button over there? Now it should be gone, and the page must be refreshed, and it should be gone, and then we can check for the button. I will refresh the page once. Now here we can see a proper layout, and then I will check for winner again. Let's suppose I will make win the circle here, and we have got game finished, winner player is O, and we have already got our button also. Now we have to render this button within a proper view also, and on clicking on this button their game should restart. Okay, now let's get back to our restart thing. Okay, for making the logic of restart, we have to make another function name. I have named it restart game. Now within the function, what I have to do is that I have to make all the arrays blank, so that the game will restart from first. So I will make the set board as blank array, and then I will set the player from, if the player was lastly X, so I will set the initial player. It's no matter what the player lastly be X or O, I will set the player as O, and then we will set our win to false, as this will be obvious, otherwise our return button will show instantly after a restart. Now we are good to go with a restart. Now what we have to do is that call this restart function again within the use effect if there is any click on the restart button. Okay, now what we have to do is that call this restart button inside the button click. Now we will head towards our button, and we will set here on click function as a restart game. Now on clicking this button, it will instantly trigger that restart game function. Let's check in our browser now. Now I will play the game for once. For suppose I will make win the X. Now okay, and restart game. Okay, it's working properly fine. I will give one other test run with O, and it is, I have won the X, and then restart. Okay, it's fine. Now what left is that tie, and we will learn into the next lesson. So welcome to the next lecture. Now we have done with the restart button as well as the winning function also. Now what left is that what if we make a tie or a draw, then we have to make one another function for the draw. So to make a one another function for draw, I will explain the logic is that there will be a draw only when all the boxes are filled, or all the array of board is filled, until there is no winner. Now to get started with the function, now we have to initialize our function now. So our function will be check if tie. So you can name anything of your function according to you. It's up to you totally, and then we have to initialize a constant, or I have taken a variable with field. This field will notify us if all the boxes or the arrays of board are being filled or not. Now I will loop through each elements of the array of board, and I will be using for each, and I will do board dot for each, and this square will hold each element of the array, that is either a X or O. Now I will set a condition that if the squares or each element is not blank, so I will then trigger this function, that is the field will become false. So until this, it will check that if any elements are blank or not. So it will loop through this array in board and it will check if there is any element blank or not. Then if field is true, that is we have all the boxes are filled in the game board, then we will just put the result as set result, and winner will be no one and status will be a tie. And it is as simple as that. We are done with the check our for draw or check for tie function with this. Now where should we call this check tie? As simple as that, it is should be called inside the use state or use effect hook. Now where should we call this check tie function? This is simply will be called inside our use effect hook, where we are checking the win also, and according to the win we will also check if there is a tie or not when there is a change in our board, that is when user plays the game. So we have done with our logic part. Now if the check tie is done, we will set this as a with no one. Now we should be rendering our winning page. For that I have to make another component, and I can throw my winning status and then I can print that status within that component. So to get started with the winning screen, we have to make a component. So I will make a file over here. Let's say I will give the name of the file as winning screen or winner screen, screen screen.js, and now this will hold the user interface for the winning screen. So let's write our initial syntax for React. Now we have our initial syntax for React. Now what this screen will hold is that it simply hold a congratulation text and then a restart button, and it will hold the name of a player, that is either it's X or O. So to render the component for winning screen, I have made this user interface. We will get this code within the notes of the lecture, and this code indicates a very simple user interface, that is H2 tag, which will contain the winning screen title, that is congratulation or draw. Now I will explain how it's working. Firstly, as you can see, I am passing two parameters within this component. The two parameters are restart game and player own. Now this two parameter comprises of if the player own, which player it will be. So I will be checking inside the h2 tag, that is if the player is equals to no one, then I will be rendering oops it's a draw, else I will be rendering congratulations, and then it will just send that the player own is that holding the name of the player, that is either X or O, and then it will be show that own the game. So in full length the text will be congratulations, either player X or O own the game, or oops it's a draw, there is no own the game will be there. Then we will be have a restart button, and on click of the restart button we will be sending the restart function through this parameter of restart game. Now let's get back to our app.js. Okay, now within app.js I will import our screen of the winner screen, and then I will simply set the logic, or I will just pass the component over here, the winning screen, and I will set restart game as a function of restart game, and the name of the player, that is player own, as result.winner, as if winner will contain the name of the player to the component. Now let's check in our browser. I will make win X over here, or O. Okay, let's O as win. Okay, we have to turn off this alert firstly, and we have our congratulations O on the game, that is a winning screen also, and we can click on restart, so it's working finely. And we have to first turn off this alert, so I will just comment the alert over here and it will turn off. So lastly what left is that to place our click sound and winning sound and this restart sound. So let's head over to the next lesson, and we will be ending this project with placing the sound. So this will be the last lecture of our project, as we have done most of the things. Lastly what left is that the game sound, that is except any sound game doesn't look good or doesn't feel the good, so we will place some click sound effects and game winning sound effect and the restart button click effect also. So it is very easy to placing a sound within a click. That is, we have to initialize the sound. So we will use the object audio, and audio mainly require a string of the file path of the mp3 or wav format. I'll provide this music in the lecture notes. And let's initialize click equals to new audio and click mp3, and game winner sound will be win.wav and restart sound will be restart.wav. So to play this sound we have to also make some function. Let's say const play will play the click sound, or we can just provide it like click play, so that there will be no confusion. I will just write it as click play, so that this will notify the click sound, and this is the game winner sound and this is the game restart sound. Okay, now where should we place this sound? Now we have to find out the function where we will click on the boxes. So this will be the handle click. We know all that handle click mainly handle that click. So on clicking on this, the first thing should trigger is that this sound. So click play will be triggered. Now let's refresh this, and as you can hear, the click sound is working now properly. Okay, now we have to place one sound in the winning screen. So to provide the sound in winning screen, we have to call this function game winner. Why should we call this function in the winning screen? So this will be inside the use effect hooks where there will be a win. So according to set win, there will be this sound play inside the winning screen inside the condition. So while placing the winner screen, this will also play. Let's try it once, and when we get one winner, okay, so we have this sound working. Now let's lastly put our restart sound. So what restart sound will do inside our restart function? So let's head towards our restart function. So it will firstly play our restart sound over here, and we are good to go with that. Now our game is properly working. We have to just wait for refreshing it, then click and on the game. That is all the sound is working. You can just simply give it a proper demonstration in the title, like we can paste the O here and it will look very good. It is stylish banner. Okay, so we have rendered all the components and we have completed, and congratulations everyone that you have completed this project successfully, and I hope you have learned about React hooks and make it easy. And that's all about this lecture.